I would want to proceed with the workshop. Is that okay with everybody?
Good evening, Mr. Lara. Could you open your mic?
Oh, sorry, I meant to give a thumbs up. Ready to go.
Okay, then. Well, good night, everybody. I wanted to mention that we continue with the training tonight and the topic for today, and then we are going to do this presentation in two segments, no? One for tonight and one on the 5th. And the reason being is that we want to be as concise as possible, and also we know the valuable time that everyone has, and therefore we also want to be able to share valuable information. No? The topic for tonight is the market research. Now, very important is that I wanted to, before we continue with the presentation, I just wanted to introduce a little icebreaker. And the question is, if you were to choose between Pepsi, between Pepsi and Coca-Cola, what would you choose? So let us have some of your responses in the chat. And from there, we will continue the presentation. So I'll give at least 30 seconds just to respond. Okay, everybody has responded. Can we see what are some of the options that many of you are having? Coca-Cola, Coca-Cola. Majority prefers Coca-Cola. Wow. So I would have thought others would have chosen other products than what I presented, which is something that can also happen, no? But I am seeing yes, I'm sorry, guys. I think my net went off, but let us continue. I was mentioning that I see that many people chose Coca-Cola, and I would have thought somebody else would have chosen a different product, but that's okay. But you will find out during this workshop that also there was other possibilities, no? And very important is that whatever you choose, also it is going to be an important element for this workshop. So what are we going to see in this presentation? We are going to see in the topics of market research, identifying your competitors, customers, suppliers, and also some of the techniques that you can also use. No? So very important is, what is market research? Well, in this one of the definitions that we globally see is that markets research is the process of collecting, analyzing, and interpreting data about your target market, consumers, competitors, and the industry as a whole. It's important, one, for you to understand that for you to be able to do a proper market research, you need data. You also need market information. You need to know your product, and also you need to know a lot about your customers. So what is market research in itself? Many people have described that there are different types of market research. And is there a specific way of doing this type of research? Many would say that you can use different formats, different approach. Many people even recommend that sometimes there are market research sometimes where people don't know even what product to produce. That is called an exploratory type of research. There are others that you can see here. What is the most used is the descriptive, like what you see here, describing all the different components here of survey, information, trends, segmentation, risk, products, marketing, competitors. And then there's another type called the casual, where specifically you have the product and then you want to know more details about why is it that people are using or choosing a specific type of product, and then it goes into deeper, no? But very important is that market research, it has what is called a framework, and it has elements that are very important that can be included, and it will be part of what we will be describing in this workshop, no? But it's important for you to know that market research has to do specifically that you have to have the ability to ask the right questions. Many of those questions are done in a form of survey, testing the product, doing desk review, what we call desk review. You go and find out if somebody already has done a market research. You find out also what are some of those trends, what we call trends, and we are going to be describing each of those words that you are seeing here. But at the end of the day, the market research is going to be very important to help you to have the ability to make better decisions in terms of what your business is doing and in terms of what is it that you're producing. Many research requires money. Therefore, sometimes people don't like to do the research because sometimes it consumes a lot of money, a lot of time. And therefore, also, if you're going to be doing research and not using the data, it's better not to do the research, because then at the end of the day, you're not going to be using that data. It's important that the data that you provides you the element to make a better decision. Okay? But at the end of the day, market research is that connection between you and your customer. So that bridge between you and your customer is precisely what the market research is trying to you. And that connection, we have seen it in this thing, no? But that connection between you and the customer is the most important aspect. Segmentation is important for you to understand, because when they ask you to be able to describe which are your targets, um, uh, that form part of your of your target, but you find out that there are some that are looking for others are not and others are also your competitors and competitors. There are other people that basically don't be quiet about the product. There are others that just buy. But it's important for you to understand your customers. And in the process of identifying your customers, I mean, as you saw from the previous image, you have people that have different needs, different ones. Your ability to distinguish what are those needs that your customer have will bring you closer. And where I need is precisely that you are producing and providing a solution to the person, a product that meets a certain need. And the closer you're able to understand how does that need of your customer looks like, the more closer that customer will become, the more loyal, the more customer that returns to get your service, the customer that also would say, well, I won't choose any product besides this. That is what you really are trying to establish when you go and identify the real need of that customer. Now, very important is that there are many different ways of establishing what are some of those needs that your customer have, and but it's important that you understand that there are going to be overlapping elements between you and your competitors and you and your customer. You would want to have the ability to be the product of choice, and therefore you have to establish elements by which you can extract that information and therefore be able to even determine what are some of those items that your customer want, and of course you're going to repeat it, and then that's why many times you establish that you want to have a product that is consistent, and therefore you also provide that to the customer, and the customer has the ability to provide you feedback if that is precisely the type of product that the person wants. Many times we have seen that there are companies that sometimes do changes in their product on whatever element, and sometimes you see the negative feedback from customers saying, oh no, the previous product was the one that I preferred or looked better and all that. That's why when you make those type of decisions to change branding, to change the size of the product, to include more colors, or whatever change, I mean, you have to have that ability of anticipating if that is not going to backfire on whatever product you're offering. Okay, it's very important that you determine that process, and that process, of course, is that an analysis of your customer becomes important. Now, you guys all saw that during the training, there was the process of introducing or presenting to you through the Canvas C proposal. You saw that there was an element called the value proposition. I think basically when you do a market research, it's precisely this type of same feature that you saw from the value proposition, where you have your product and your customer being linked. And when you have a good linkage between those two elements, those are the elements that you have to use in your market research. And therefore, as I mentioned to you, asking the right question was very important. And I think you saw it from the Canvas C, but also you're going to see it when you start to prepare the elements of your business plan and also the elements of your market plan. You're going to have to be asking questions like, what are your customers? Who are your customers? Sorry. What are the different segments in the target population? Who are your top customers? I mean, is the reality is you're going to have different levels of those customers, the top one, the middle one, and those that are not still loyal to your product, no? And you have to be able to distinguish them. What are the top performing locations, especially if you're selling, where are you selling the most? Where you're selling the most, people wanted more? Are they buying more? What motivates them to make a purchase? What are their fears and reservations about your brand? How do you interact with the products and services? What makes them choose your competitors or you, no? So you have to be able to establish and ask the right questions. Whatever response you get from them is the first element that start to provide you information and as to what are some of the plans that you have to start to make to be able to meet the requirement from those customers. Now, why is it that at the end of the day, we want you to learn more about the market research? Why? Because you can develop a product without doing any analysis. And at the end of the day, you might say, it is just my opinion, my gut feeling, or because I consume that product, everybody will like it. And you will find out that the reality is not that way. I mean, you might want a certain product a certain way, but you have to find out how much people are willing to buy the product that you are currently producing. And that information only comes through developing a market research. And why do we do a market research? First of all, if you're already producing a product, and I want to mention this, is that some people decided to produce a product because they had an idea of starting to do a business. And therefore they said, oh, this is the product because maybe they understood part of the problem that people, the need of their customer. There are others be and stating, well, these are some of the things that people are buying. And therefore you said, oh, I have an opportunity there. There are others, and I will mention to you many in the international market. Many times products are sold before, and then they are produced. But before they are produced, many people do a market research, and that market research includes that there are many surveys that take place. There is an analysis that is made. Who are the ones that are producing it? Which countries? Which companies? How their capability look like? Are they very good? Could you produce a product similar to them? Or what are the trends in the market? Are that sector increasing or is it decreasing that nobody wants to buy it anymore? Are people willing to pay any price? Ideas, are there any new products? What are customers saying about the products that are existing in the market? Are they meeting the need of those buying the products? Those are the importance of establishing and developing a market research. I am sure many of us might have started to produce something and then at the end of the day realize that something changed. Consumers would have wanted the product in a different timing, or the product you're producing is too expensive, or the product you're producing, farmer or customers wanted to buy good and then they stop buying it. All those things are elements as to why many times having good information on the product that you currently have at your hand can make you make better decision and therefore have the ability to improve your business or your livelihood, no? Now, very important is we mentioned that when you are producing something, you always have a competitor. Sometimes we don't know who are our competitors. Let's be honest. Sometimes we don't even know. And but the reality is, you should know that many times you have direct secondary competitors, and indirect competitors. So these are the three types of competitors generally that you will find out that you're going to have in whatever product you are producing. And it is important to know your competitor because you're competing against another product and people might prefer the other than you, or might one than. And if you see that a lot of your customers are increasing, you're doing something very good. I mean, because the customers is a good indication as to how many people are getting to know your product and also are willing to pay the product that you have. Also, another important aspect is the following. An element from the market analysis is that you need to always bear in mind that whatever you are producing, many times you need a supplier of any element that you have that you are producing. I'll give you one example. I am sure that if you're listening here, I am sure that many people sometimes start to produce a product. Let's say you're producing soup or coconut soup, and you find out that at the end of the day, whatever oil that you're buying does not meet the requirement of whatever you want to buy, because maybe the oil is mixed, maybe the oil is not of good quality for you to, when you blend it, it produces you a better quality of the material. Or let's say you're producing feed, you always have to go and get the material like corn and other grains that you have to mix, but then you realize that they are not good quality. So it is important that whatever product you're going to have to be provided to the customer, you always need to understand who else is supplying you the raw basic material for you to reprocess or to end up with a final product. And therefore, many people that produce secondary products to deliver to a customer have to do this type of analysis, what is called a supplier's analysis. And it always uses three elements: the cost and also delivery. I mean, you would want to buy something far, and then you find out that the price is too expensive. Or you will find out that there are products that are produced here in the country. The price is too high, therefore you decide to get it from somewhere else. Or you find out that you start to buy a product and then you can't find the raw product again because is no longer being produced here or is temporarily produced in Belize, and therefore you have a problem to be able to even process your product. So with this, I wanted to mention, and I raised the example of coconut, is because whatever product you are producing, you form part of a value chain. Okay? You always start with those raw inputs. There is a process of production. There is a process of processing, advanced processing, whatever manufacturing, and then the end market. And you fall within any of those. And it is important that you understand that either you become a provider of raw product or you have the ability to control the entire value chain. Many big producers generally like to control the entire value chain because like that they have the ability to see and profit from all the levels of the value chain. Okay, but I'm just highlighting this because we touched the topic of suppliers, and it is important to understand that if you do not make a good market research as to who supply you a good quality material that obeys a certain specification of quality and cost, you may start producing something and then have to stop because you can't find the raw materials to continue. The person that provides the inputs and the raw products generally is the lowest paid price, and those ones reaching as close to the customers or the consumers is the one that always reaps the most benefit. Okay, so if you were to sit down with your customer, now that you are understanding the elements of the market research, what would you ask your customer? Now that you know that, I mean, the customer is the most important person or consumer as part of your market research, what would you your customer, especially that you are producing a product now, and then you understand that whatever feedback the customer provides you is very important. So I'll give you 30 seconds to at least ask one question. What would that question be to your customer, knowing that you are producing one product? Okay, everybody has answered. No, no one has responded. Hello.
Yes, good night.
Yes, what would a question be for your customer if you can ask one question? Okay, let me continue. I didn't see a response in the chat, but I have the. So in the area of the market research, before you do anything in marketing, you must first have to do the market research, which is the gathering, recording, analyzing those data. That type of research either can be done through questionnaires, through surveys, interviews. You can use many publishing. I even have seen people doing samples. Like if you go to Agri show, give people a sample of your product and they can give you, would say, well, I'm producing at the farm, they would take people there. And if you are producing, let's say, chickens or any fruits, people would permit comments, first-hand comments about the product or what people will see during that visit, okay? Those elements are very important in the market research. And I am sure many people sometimes go and try to find out if there is somebody that already did the research, and therefore it provides them the elements that they would include that research as part of their research, no? But to me, I wanted to mention to you some of those examples that I find out that there are people that when they start to do some research, they first would establish like age groups, from which region, which gender, like who is the one that is going to consume more this product. Is it gender based, or it doesn't make a difference? Both men, from what region are they, or from which district are they buying the most? Or is it that the tourists are buying it more than the local people? Or is it that young people are buying it more, or older people, or very underage persons? Okay, all those things are elements that are important because it provides you the capacity of their financial capacity to be able to buy your product. Okay, there are products also that are well known by their brands, like what you saw from Coca-Cola and Pepsi. Many people, at least in Belize, Pepsi at some certain time was not too well known because it was not permitted to be imported because the country protected the brand of Coca-Cola. But now we can see in the market both, and therefore people have an option to drink whatever they want, or others would no soda, I drink water only. Okay, so this is important because then it becomes an element to have into consideration as to what type of information you are extracting from that particular customer that you are targeting. Another important aspect is that you see an example here of some of the questions sometimes companies doing, like surveys. I mean, many times we are encountered that people are doing survey of their services. How was my service? Did you like? Are you going to return and get the same service that I provided you? Or if you're in a hotel, are you going to return again back? I mean, was the price adequate on what I provided you, or are you willing to? All those things are elements that become very important because then you are trying to understand the customers. You're trying also to establish and calibrate the type of products that you have with information that you want to extract. And the purpose is that you want to improve your product. Okay? And many times it's because you are either you understand that there are competitors, you want to improve and grow more your production, you are controlling a certain part of the market and you want to continue maintaining that market, or you are targeting a specific audience, okay? And that in itself gives you elements as to what are the things that I need to do. What do I need to do in a specific time so that I maintain my customers? Or what are some of the specific things I need to do to be able to expand and grow? Okay. Now, very important is that I am sure we did not describe every single items we are thinking to elements of those marketing that you're going to see as we continue through the presentation, that are elements that are important when they ask you to develop a business plan. These are the same questions that you need to be able to answer. And sometimes we might just choose to answer it directly, but I want you to that any questions are answered with precise information. If you provide wrong information, then whatever is your final product will be affected with any supposition or assumptions that you make. Wrong assumptions can make you make errors when you start to develop your product. Okay? And that's why I believe that it's why it's called market research, because it has to contain discipline, it has to contain data that is reliable, it has to contain analysis that are serious, and then you end up with of telling you this is the type of decision that you need to make. These are the types of elements that you need to establish. And that's why we ask you many times when we visit you questions like those. And if you're just making assumption, believe me, at the end of the day, our advice would be also taking that assumption and thinking that that is the most reliable information, and you will end up with bad advice. Okay, so my recommendation to many of the persons hearing this presentation is a market research requires very good information that is going to be impacting the decision and the recommendations that are being provided to each and every one of you participating in this training, and then converting those decisions into having a better product or retaining the market, moving from a lower level to a higher level. Okay, so that is the intention of this presentation. And we, as you will see from the other part that continues, we will be describing a little bit more elements of that market research, and then what is it that you need to know, so that when you start to develop your business plan, you can consider it that you have a very strong business plan that is also marketable or provides you a good element as to why others would want to invest in your business, or also decide to provide you the required assistance that you need, and then you end up with a good product, a Belizean product. So this was the first part of the presentation. We will continue on the next on Thursday. Thank you very much. So guys, any questions? Sorry about that. My net went off. Okay, you can always type your then we can also be able to provide you answers either during the consultation process, or each of the consultants also would have some answers for you. So if we don't have any more questions, thanks very much for tonight. And the presentation has been shared, so you can be able to follow it or review this recording. Thanks very much and good night, everybody.
Carlos,
Yes.
I had shared a market survey form in the comments in the chat section. When you're asking about questions you would ask for the market survey in the chat. I don't know. I guess you didn't see them. You didn't see my answers.
No, I haven't seen it
in the chat.
I didn't see it in the chat, so not sure if you share it. I'm not sure.
Let me check.
We're not seeing it, no?
You're still not seeing it? Okay, I don't know.
No.
I put it in it there in the chat. I don't know.
Okay, well, to me, I'm glad and happy to know at least you, Donna, that you're mentioning that you are trying to share a market survey. But how many of us in a group have seen a market research or a market survey? Is important because of the elements that I mentioned, that sometimes we enter into development, we don't know about many of these types of analysis that are made, and therefore we discover it many years after we are producing or doing, because maybe we are just in the business of producing, but any elements of the marketing, sometimes we leave it to somebody else, no? So, but as I said, it is a process, a learning curve for many of you that now that you have found out that there is an element of market research when you start to develop your business plan. Without information, you cannot write a business plan so easily. So that's why the elements of the market research is important. Okay, anybody else?
I will send a copy of it to you by email. I will send a copy of it to you by email, so maybe you can, if you have any input for me.
Okay, then. No problem.
You know, for a lotion that I plan to put on the market.
Okay, then. Perfect. Anybody else?
Very much.
Anybody else? No? Then if there's nobody else, you can still email us, or you can see us during the consultation time. Well, I would say thanks very much and good night, everybody.
Okay, thank you too, and good night.
Thank you too, and good night.
Good night and thank you.